Distinguished Susan Schulz will take us back on a journey of remembering when Fill Her Up brought us joy and a life lesson she learned recently. Please welcome Distinguished Toastmaster Susan Schulz.
Thank you, Madam Master of Ceremonies, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. How many of you remember when we had full service gas stations? Do you remember? Yeah, you'd be greeted by the attendant with a very cheerful, fill her up. And then they'd go on to check your oil, wash your windshield. And in the 1960s, they gave out these beautiful beverage glasses. I'm sure my parents had 100 of those glasses or more in their home bar for these free glasses we got with each fill-up. Now, when self-service was introduced, my township on Long Island, Huntington, banned self-service. Now, they told us that it was because they wanted to preserve the jobs, make sure the attendance was still there. But I had a sneaking suspicion that they thought that we were just too dumb to be able to fill up our tanks and not set the gas station on fire. Now today, when I go and fill up my own gas, I have my fingers crossed and I'm saying a prayer that it doesn't go over the credit card limit. Or I don't have to take out a second mortgage to fill the tank. Fill her up. Now, this thought came to mind especially during this last week. You see, I got ready for our morning practices. I go to get coffee. The K-cup carousel was empty. I had to fill her up. The water reserve in the coffee maker was empty. I had to fill her up. I went over the water cooler, go to get the jug, and it's empty. I had to fill her up. Well, of course, you go on to get the sugar bowl, and it's empty. I had to fill her up. Well, this went on all day, including the toilet paper in the bathroom and everything else that we had to do. And I was wondering, was this how my entire day was going to go? Well, then I wondered to myself how lucky I was. You see, I had all the supplies, and I even knew where they were. So I could fill them up and chuckle and just say to myself, all right, don't get annoyed, just fill her up. And I walked around the house saying it all day long. My husband probably thought I was a little bit loony, but I didn't get frustrated all day. Have you ever had one of those days, or weeks, or months, or years, or decades? Well, yeah, just remember, there's a story of a glass being half empty or half full. But people, it's refillable. Just fill her up. Take the action. Give yourself the gift and fill her up. Now, this message is applicable in all languages, I'll let you know. And thankful for me, I'm multilingual. Do you know? I'm fluent in all 5 love languages. So I'm going to relate to you how that applies. You see, the first love language is gift giving. My 13-year-old granddaughter, Faith, loves to give gifts. She may make gifts, but she also likes to receive them. So she's really good at filling up that Amazon wish list or the giftful list for her birthday or Christmas or just because you love me, Grandma. And lucky for her, I'm pretty good at filling up those shopping carts because you see, I've had a lot of practice. The second love language is words of affirmation. Now, it can be as simple like, I love you, or thank you for all you do, or acknowledging a well-cooked meal. In my younger days, when my kids were little, my husband used to lead the cheer. Good cook, Mom! followed by the applause. Now that warmed my heart. It filled my spirits. The third love language is spending quality time with one another, like we're doing right now. Or like the 3.5 years my husband and I hibernated from COVID. I need to tell you, you have to really like each other to be 24/7 for 3.5 years or more. But sometimes my honey gets upset if I just leave the room. The room feels so empty, he says. So I have to, of course, re-enter and fill up that room with making my grand entrance into the room. Now, the fourth love language is physical touch. Now, that can be a simple pat on the back for a job well done. Maybe it means holding hands while we watch TV, as we may do during the evening. And sometimes it's a simple grab the hand and a kiss on my hand, as my knight in shining armor will do for me. He's very special. Now, this fills my heart, and my way of demonstrating this love language for him is the various creams and lotions and magical love potions that I need to apply to his head, shoulders, knees and toes, yeah, and probably a few places in between. My 96-year-old sweetie is so well preserved that he has less wrinkles than I do. Now, the fifth and final love language is acts of service. Now, this can be our ministries, volunteer services, like filling an officer role in a Toastmasters club, or a meeting role for those that step in and do that. Or it could just simply be taking that empty glass or half full glass and filling it up for someone throughout the day. So I challenge each and every one of you, raise your glass and remember that in any language, the choice is yours. When your loved ones are tired, depleted, or staring at an empty glass, half empty glass, remember, take action and fill her up. Back to you, Madam MC.
Ah, thank you, Susan. Yes, that brought back some good memories of the old days with the gas stations. And in fact, this trip that I was on, the local gas station is still full service. It is the only place I've known for the last, I don't know how many years, that it's still full service. And you can go and ask them to fill her up. All right. Sue Lighthoff will be our facilitator for the round robin evaluations. Please welcome Sue.
Thanks, Marjane. It behooves all Toastmasters to be able to give evaluations. And in this club, as Marjane said earlier, we do round robin. So hopefully everybody was paying attention, not just those that are doing the silent evaluations. I asked about 30 seconds. If something has already been said, don't need to say it. If it was amazing, we all know it was, but you don't need to say it. And we do want to say something of improvement. I know all these speeches, her speech was great, but we're Toastmasters and find something that can be improved on. We've got 5 people that are going to give evaluations for Susan in this order: Vanessa, Stephanie, Tom, Eve, and Stan if you'd like to. So, Vanessa.
I really enjoyed Susan's talk. There are lots of really good reminders in there. I think and particularly the filler up. And I have my glass here, so it is almost half full, so which I really enjoyed. I think the love languages were really lovely because they were a really good way of talking about relationships in a very lovely, loving way. And there was also humour throughout that, so I smiled. So it might have been part of that audience. We know Susan, so we smile at the humour because she's known to us as well as one aspect that Dan talked about. But I really loved it. I thought it was really heartwarming.
Stephanie?
Susan, I love the way you bring nostalgia into your speeches. It's from a time gone by that many of us do remember. I liked everything My only suggestion, perhaps you can put a little fire into the things that you really are passionate about, that really strike a chord with you. Give it some and that's my comment.
Go ahead, John.
First of all, awesome, because you let the humor come out. It wasn't forced. And from the lady who said when she joined, I'm not funny, how could I do this? That was awesome. I would like to see a little shorter bit about the filler up because it was so important of all your love language. So I think your filler up was good, but if you concise it a little bit more, that might be the punch that Stephanie's referring to. The love languages pulls on all of us. Share it with some more people.
Eve?
Hi, Susan. A great speech as always. I loved all of the different types of humor that you used. You started off with observational about second mortgage to fill up the tank, and I could certainly empathize with that. I like the play on words that you did about love language and fill her up, the wish list on Amazon of your niece, I think it was. Just when I was going to recommend, a little bit of risque humor, you jumped in and did that with head and shoulders, knees and toes, and a few places in between. I would like to see you simplify your call to action. I wasn't sure if it was jumping in to fill in roles. I wasn't sure if it was having positive outlook on life in terms of glass half full as opposed to empty. So just streamlining that I think would be helpful. Thank you.
And Stan, I know you're a visitor. Would you be willing to, I know you're Toastmaster, would you be willing to give an evaluation? 30 seconds?
Sure. Susan, I really did like the 5 love languages as a framework. I would suggest considering just 3 and then have us maybe recreate something else to add to it, just because I think if you had 3, that would give you more time to expand and make some of these, whether it's nostalgia or risque or something else, a little bit more time to develop those. So that's the only thing I can think of. Just there's something magic about 3.
Thank you. And those who thought they were safe this time or probably not the next time, unless you've got a major role. Marjane.
All right. Thank you, Sue, and our evaluators. Next up, Paula Suma will be giving us a presentation from the presentation mastery path, managing a difficult audience. Distinguished Toastmaster Paula Suma is aware that she will be interrupted during her speech this evening. But what she doesn't know is who and how she will be interrupted. Her project is to show how to deal with difficult people when giving a speech or presentation. Her evaluator will evaluate her on how she dealt with the interruptions and not on the speech itself or the speech presentation. This speech will be a total of, this says 1 to 15. I think she meant 10, which includes her speech and the interruptions. Although, hey, if you can do it all in one, you deserve an award. I know she's shooting for 10. Please welcome Paula Suma. Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. Paula Suma.
Thank you, Marjane. Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever found yourself stressing out before an important speech or an important event? Whether it be a job interview, a meeting at work, or a Toastmasters speech. What typically happens when you're getting ready for that speech? Unless you're a great professional, you don't have any kind of butterflies or concerns or shakes, do you? I know I do.
I can answer that. I have butterflies all the time. Whenever I go out into the garden, I see butterflies. They're all over the place.
Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing with us. I'd like for any comments to be held to the end of the speech, if you all don't mind. I'd love to hear about your butterflies, but if you would allow me to proceed, it would behoove you to listen to the entire speech and save your questions and comments to the end. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I appreciate your enthusiasm. I know that when I was delivering my very first child many years ago, over 45 years ago, actually, I remember being in the delivery room and the nurse looked at me and she took a little towel and dabbed my upper lip. And I said, "Why are you doing that?" And she said, "Well, it's very common for people who are nervous or anxious to sweat on their upper lip." And I realized that is something that I do, and I never noticed it before until I was actually delivering my first child and going into labor. Ever since then, I realized that it's not just those butterflies in your stomach, it's the sweaty upper lip, it's the shaky hands, and maybe even for some of you, it's even the feeling that you need to go to the bathroom. Well, I've got some advice for you. Number one, keep a Kleenex or something in your pocket just in case you get that sweaty upper lip. Dab a little before you get up on stage in front of everybody or at the lectern. Take a nice deep breath before you start. Look around your
I'm not sure what
audience.
a deep breath is going to do. I don't know. We're not sure what's going to happen with a deep breath or a sweaty upper lip. Really, I mean, I don't know what she's talking
Vanessa,
about. Really,
that's a good point, Vanessa. You know, taking that deep breath will calm your nerves. Breathe in that oxygen and release it. It calms those nerves and it makes you feel a lot better. It truly does. And thank you for that information. I really appreciate your concern about what taking a deep breath would do. I'm sure many of us in the audience would be able to attest to the use of that deep breath. Thank you for that, Vanessa. Much appreciated. Now, another thing that you can do, I was actually at a contest once where I thought, I'm sorry, it seems that I was muted by mistake. I apologize for that error. Thank you for putting me back off of mute, whoever did that. I appreciate it. I know sometimes, isn't it funny? We all get muted at some point or other during our speech, whether we accidentally do it to ourselves or someone else inadvertently does that. So thank you for your patience and understanding for those few seconds that you were not able to hear me. I appreciate that. Well, this gentleman, as I was saying, he actually, before he got up to speak, he got down on the floor on all fours and did push-ups. Can you imagine calming your nerves by literally doing push-ups before going to the microphone? This is a true story. It was someone in a Winter Park club and he was in a contest. I don't think he actually won, but I'm sure it helped him to calm his nerves. I really feel that there are so many ways for us to calm our nerves when we are getting ready to give a speech or to be in an interview. Have you ever been in an interview, maybe for a job, and you just stuttered and didn't know what to say and you couldn't really find those words? I think taking that deep breath, looking around, and the most important thing is to smile. Smile at your audience, smile at the person you're addressing, and keep that positive attitude. Answer the questions to the best way you know, and speak from your heart. That is so important. I don't know if you notice it now, even the best of speakers, even the worst of speakers, and even speakers like me who've been speaking for about 18 years, still get that upper lip sweatiness. I don't know. It's embarrassing, but it does happen. So my information for you, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're going for a job interview, whether you're giving a speech in your club or on the stage like Dan was in front of hundreds of people listening and watching so closely, you are the center of attention. Don't sweat the small stuff. Whether you need to grab that Kleenex and wipe that upper lip, or pace around a little bit, have a glass of water with lemon in it, or even get down on your all fours and do some push-ups. No matter what you do, you have that stage and you can do it. Be proud of yourself, have confidence in yourself, and you'll know that you can do this. Don't sweat the small stuff. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I thank you for holding your questions till the end of my speech, and I appreciate any information that you personally would like to share with me.
I don't think you could say speaking from the heart, because all the heart does is pump blood all around the body. I think you should say speaking from the brain, because the brain is what does all the thinking. All the heart does is pump blood.
William, you have a great point there. Thank you so much. I find that information to be very scientific. Sometimes we like to go beyond that science and add a little humor to it. So when you speak from the heart and the brain, that probably makes more sense. So thank you for that advice. We are speaking from the brain as well as the heart.
The heart just pumps blood. That's all it's there for. That's all it does. And okay, I think there's more neurons in the digestive system than there are in the heart. So yeah, maybe you could speak from the stomach or speak from the brain. But no, I don't think speaking from the heart is the right term to use.
Thank you, William, for that great input. I appreciate that. Marjane, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, I think that covers it very well, Paula.
Well, thank you very much. I agree.
My aunt used to say that if you put Vaseline on your lip, then the sweat will slide off quicker, and Vaseline keeps the liver working. So that should answer William's concern.
I agree. You know, as a matter of fact, my mother-in-law used to actually boil Vaseline in water and breathe it in. Oh no, wait a minute. That was Vicks Vapor Rub. I take that back. That was Vicks. But yeah, that could also help. I think Vaseline is a little
also
bit.
keep a guy from kissing you because he'll slide off.
Vicks.
Oh, this is true. Thank you for that
Vicks
information.
or Vaseline. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all the same thing. Just one has an odor.
I like chapstick better on my lips than Vaseline. But thank you for that. Anybody else like to use Vaseline on their lips? It really does work. All right. Do we have any other questions? Any other comments? Well, thank you again so much for allowing me to share my information with you. Back to you, Toastmaster.
All right. Thank you, Paula. Thank you very much. Yes, I have to say that the last time I had dental work done, I was very glad when the little dental assistant put some Vaseline on my lips that were totally numb from the dental procedure. It was very comforting and helpful. All right, we're going to have our round robin facilitator, Sue Lighthoff, back to guide us through the evaluations again.
Thanks, Marjane. Now, remember when you're talking to Paula, this is you're evaluating her on how she did the disruptions, not her speech itself. The speech itself was great, but this is what we're supposed to. So we're going to be in Susan, William, Francine, and hopefully Dan, if you're willing. So, Susan.
Yes, Paula, you were gracious, of course, with your interrupters. The one thing you did say was, hold everything to the end, don't interrupt. And I was afraid the others weren't going to interrupt. So that was one of the things you kind of put them in their places that, no, I'm too afraid to get started. You handled it with grace, as always. Enjoyed the presentation and how you handled them.
I think she didn't have enough lipstick, though.
William? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I think she did a good job at handling the difficult audience, myself being one of those difficult people. Actually pushed me a little bit beyond my comfort zone, but I think you made it work, and she was able to handle my interruption and my arguments relatively well.
Speaking from the brain there, William. Francine?
Yep.
Oh.
And that goes to my second point, the mute, the unmute part, you handled that brilliantly. I love the way you fell on the sword and took responsibility for it. But I just want to say one thing. If you had a Kleenex waving around through the thing, it would have really added something to it. Back to you, Sue.
Finally, Dan, if you're up, if you want to.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. The disruptions were my favorite part because I think going back to what I'd said earlier that they were the realest part. That was where Paula was having to kind of, maybe think a bit more on the spot and not so much just something rehearsed or read. So I really enjoyed the disruptions. I thought Paula handled it really, really well. And recommendation isn't really for Paula, it's for everyone. I think one thing about that project is it can feel quite fake sometimes and quite forced, and people are just doing it out of, because it's the project. So maybe just allow it all the time. Just interrupt whenever you want. Any speaker, have a go at that. See how that goes.
Thanks. And the only thing I would add, Paula, is you were talking about taking a deep breath. So when you were interrupted, maybe use your own language that you're talking. Okay. And show us the deep breath. And that's what I have as my part of the evaluation, return control to the RMC, Marjane.
Thank
All
you,
right.
everybody.
Thank you very much, Sue, and our evaluators. Now we need to take a break, have a little break in the action with a short joke from our joke master today, Tom Hobbs. Please welcome Tom Hobbs, the man in the hat.
Well, here in the United States, this past week is a little hectic for many of us. We've all had some emotional going ups and downs and deep swallows. And it made me, think back. When I was young, I used to watch Uncle Russell. He was a good farmer. And the time that, he dealt with a city man, a little bit different than I ever expected, but it reminded me of Tuesday night here in the United States. Wednesday morning, the feeling. You see, I witnessed Uncle Russell at the time. There was this city folk dude who had been out duck hunting. And he was adamant about duck hunting, and he was out there shooting like crazy, and Uncle Russell knew it, and the guy stayed off his farm. He stayed away from it, but it got going crazy. He was like 3 days in a row, and he shot at a duck. He missed it so bad, he scared the duck, really what he did. And the duck flew right into Uncle Russell's barn, hit him in the head, fell down. Didn't hurt the duck, but he kind of knocked him out, And the farmer, the city guy come over and says, "Uncle, I want to get my duck." He's crawling over the fence, and Uncle Russell said, No. You don't crawl over the fence. Duck's in my yard, my duck. "Oh, no, it's my duck. I've been hunting for 3 days. I want my duck." No. My yard, my duck. No, he's getting all adamant. He wants to take the duck. But I'll tell you what, we can settle this country style. City boy goes, "Well, what's that mean?" "Well, we take turns. Whoever finishes, they get the duck." "Well, turns at what?" "Well, we're going to kick each other right in the groin just as hard as we can." "What?" "I'll go first." And Uncle Russell, boom, kicks that guy. After about 30 minutes, he caught his breath, and he stood up and looked at his Uncle Russell and said, "Okay, my turn." Uncle Russell said, "Nah, I can see. You can have the duck."
All right. Thank you. Ooh. Never argue with Uncle Russell.
It behooves you not to.
Exactly. All right. Well, it will behoove us to move on after all that. So let's introduce our improv master for this evening, Stephanie Bonnie Burns. Stephanie, what do you have in mind for us tonight?